Hello again, everyone. I am Chris Scher, and this is the Citizen Sports Weekly for Wednesday, April 7th, 2021. Robert Harding, Justin Ritzel. It's another Wednesday, although I think we did the video on Friday last week because Justin was covering something. So we're a little shorter period of time that we're back. So we'll get right to it. Our first topic is Monday night's national championship game, although really it wasn't much of a game. Baylor came out 9-0 start, just kicked butt, took names, no doubt about it. National champions, ending Gonzaga's dream of being the first undefeated national champion since Indiana 1976. I think we saw this coming. I think the way Baylor just absolutely dismantled Houston on Saturday night and the way that Gonzaga struggled and had used overtime beat UCLA. I think we had a hunch that this was going to be the result. And, look, it wasn't much of a game, but it was thrilling to see Baylor put up such a good performance in the championship game. And, so be it. Good, I'm glad college basketball got its season in, that there was a regular NCAA tournament. There wasn't much impact by COVID, that we actually had a real March Madness. And even though it was a little bit different because it was in one place basically, and there weren't as many fans, it's still great to see a college basketball tournament. So, Robert, your thoughts on the NCAA final?
It was interesting. Baylor came right out of the gate. I think they really set the tone in the first 5 minutes or so of the game with just aggressive defense, timely shooting. I mean, they made some outside shots. They were dominant inside, and really forced Gonzaga to play from behind, which, Gonzaga, they've had to make some comebacks this year, but really, they're a bit of a front runner. They were undefeated for a reason, a great squad up until the national championship game, and Baylor was just too much for them. When you look back on it now, it was pretty clear that these were the two best teams in the tournament, Gonzaga and Baylor. I know a lot of people picked that as their championship game, and obviously we saw what happened between the start and the finish. It was pretty wild. Obviously UCLA making the Final Four, and then some of the upsets that happened along the way. But, when it came down to it, the two best teams in the tournament played in the championship game. And, as you mentioned, Chris, Baylor overwhelmed Houston. Gonzaga had to squeak by UCLA. They really should have lost that game. UCLA played pretty well, especially down the stretch. Really should have closed them out, but overtime was had, and Gonzaga came out on top. But clearly Baylor was the better team. And for all the talk about how well-rounded Gonzaga was this year, Baylor got overlooked, I think, a little bit, because that team, as they showed Monday night, is just a great all-around squad. Like they have a couple standout players, obviously, but like Gonzaga, they have guys that any given night could score 20 and lead them to victory. So a great win for Baylor. Gonzaga, they were kind of the original mid-major of kind of modern 21st century college basketball, if you will. And obviously they've grown into a much bigger program now, and a perennial contender. But these near misses have to kill them, especially Mark Few. He's been the coach along the way. They've made the Final Four. They've made, I think, now 2 championship game appearances and haven't won yet. So tough for them, but what can you say? Baylor was just the better team and won the national title.
Justin.
Yeah, I can't help but think that after such a memorable and magical national semifinal game where you hit a buzzer-beating half-court shot to advance to the title game, and just the emotional swings, playing UCLA and not knowing if you were going to advance there, and just, you come out of games like that, and obviously there's 2 ways it can go. Either it's just that momentum boost that you need, and it'll carry you into the championship game, or it's mentally exhausting and it's tough to kind of get your competitive level back up to that same spot when the previous game was just so draining on you physically and mentally, because obviously Gonzaga had to leave it all out in the court just to get to the championship game. So, I haven't watched enough of Gonzaga or Baylor this season to say whether or not I was surprised at the outcome. But I do think it's a weird season, and I don't know how many people were talking about Baylor when the season started as far as being a national championship contender. And to be honest, congrats to Baylor, but I think that them winning the championship kind of displays an issue that I have with Division I college basketball right now, which is that, in 5 years, how many people are going to remember this Baylor team and how good they were? I would say not too many. And college basketball kind of lacks that benchmark team of this past decade. You have to go back to when Florida went back-to-back 15 years ago to have a team that repeated as national champions. And that's kind of a product of all these players going one and done at all these big programs. It's just tough to string together multiple seasons with the same group that can win a championship, just setting aside the fact that it's tough to go back-to-back. We always talk about the NFL, and none of us here like the Patriots, but the Patriots winning year after year after year, that set a benchmark for the rest of the league. And that kind of, you could look at the decades and say like, oh, that was the team of the decade. College basketball is just kind of missing that. Duke, they'll put together their great team once every 3 years and possibly win a title. Same with North Carolina. Villanova, I think they went 2 out of 3. They won 2 out of 3 national championships. Virginia won one. They were the last team to win one before the 2020 tournament was canceled. They're always in the mix, but I'm just kind of looking for that next dynastic college basketball team. I'm worried that it's never going to happen. And this Gonzaga loss kind of, I think, robs us of a really memorable team. Granted, I think there would have been people downplaying the significance of going undefeated in a season where you're playing in a lot of empty arenas and road games aren't necessarily as tough. Obviously, there's very special challenges to being successful in a season like this. But, congrats to Baylor. Credit to them for winning the title. I'm just sorry that I won't probably care about this in a couple of years.
Yeah, I mean, again, you could use the asterisk of the pandemic and everything. I get that about what Gonzaga did, playing in a lot of empty arenas. But still, to go undefeated, for the last game is still pretty darn good and not easy to do. So, all right. Our next topic, of course, what always comes after the NCAA championship, a tradition unlike any other, the Masters. And I've always said that if I could cover anything as a sports writer, it would be the Masters. That is the one event I would love to cover as a reporter or go to as a paying fan. I mean, every year Robert and I enter the lottery for Masters tickets, whether it's the practice rounds or the actual tournament. Of course, we never win, but it's definitely one of those bucket list type things. And I would love to be able to go down to Augusta, Georgia sometime before I wrap it up and see the Masters in person. So the question though is who do you think is going to win? Now, last year, of course, the Masters was in November, so it's only been 5 months. Kind of crazy to think of that. And of course, I'm going to bring this up. Of course, I picked Dustin Johnson to win the Masters, and he did win the Masters. So guess what? I'm going to pick him again. Why not? Maybe he's not playing his best right now, but again, I like DJ to win the Masters. I know there's a lot of other golfers that are capable. And I'll just throw one more thing out there. Why is there all this love for Jordan Spieth all of a sudden? I mean, this guy couldn't win anything for the last few years. He wins this last tournament last weekend, and all of a sudden he's the betting favorite to win the Masters. I mean, look, Jordan Spieth's a great golfer. He's got the resume. He's won multiple majors. He's a great golfer. But, as we all know, great golfers go into slumps, and sometimes they last for years. So why all of a sudden Jordan Spieth is getting all the money to win the Masters? I wonder if he'll even make the cut. I think last week was an aberration, and he'll resume back to his current mean and will not win the Masters. Justin, who do you like?
Well, I'm not going to pick Jordan Spieth, that's for sure. But I will say, golf is one of those sports when, it doesn't matter how long you go in a slump. Once something finally starts to click for you, it becomes like night and day. So I wouldn't count out Jordan Spieth. I think that it is significant that he just comes off a tournament win. He's obviously one of the most talented golfers there is. Just something about the mental side of the game he could just not figure out in the last few years. So, like I said, I'm not going to pick him, but I wouldn't count him out. I remember last year going into the Masters, I think the conversation a lot was how because it was November, because it was later in the year, a lot of people were curious how the course would play because we're so used to this tournament being in the spring. And the perception was, I think, if I remember correctly, is that kind of leveled the playing field for the guys like Dustin Johnson, like Brooks Koepka, like Rory McIlroy, the guys who have played it year after year after year might have been at a bit of a disadvantage because they just weren't used to playing the course in those conditions. And lo and behold, Dustin Johnson was one of the favorites. He goes in and absolutely smokes everybody. Can he carry over anything from a November course to April? I don't know. He's just a good golfer, so I wouldn't count him out. My pick, though, is Justin Thomas, who is currently second among the total money winners for this year. He finished fourth at the Masters last year, 8 strokes behind Dustin Johnson, but he was still shot minus 12 or 12 under. So one of the best golfers in the world, who's obviously had recent success on this course. He's had a good PGA Tour schedule so far this year. So I will take Justin Thomas.
All right. Robert, your pick?
Well, before I get to my pick, Shear is spreading misinformation here because he doesn't want people to know that he's picking a front runner again. Dustin Johnson is actually the betting favorite along with Bryson DeChambeau. You can act like he's not, but he is the betting favorite. Just like Rory was all those times you pick Rory McIlroy to pick every other major.
I picked Rory McIlroy one time to win the British Open. Okay, so sue me on that one. One single time I picked Rory to win the British Open. That's it.
Maybe more than one, but whatever.
No. One. And I bet money on it too, and I lost.
All right. So, then the other thing is, Jordan Spieth, I'm not picking him, but Spieth's had a pretty good year. He's rebounded this year. I think he has 4 top 5 finishes, including that win last week at the Valero. Look, I'm not going to put a lot of stock into that Valero win. It's a Mickey Mouse tournament, but it's a win's a win in golf, and he put 4 rounds together and won. Good for him, and he has been playing better. My pick is Colin Morikawa. This guy really rose to prominence last year, winning his first major. Now, this will give him another look. I think the last Masters was his first look at Augusta as a player. I think he finished 44th, if I remember correctly from looking at that earlier. He's a guy that is a rising star, and he's played pretty well this year. I think if he can put it all together, he can win the green jacket. I think it'll be a little bit tougher for these, the guys like Dustin Johnson. The conditions favored him last year. Plus, he was pretty hot last year. The way he was playing, he's kind of cooled off coming into this year. DeChambeau, there's of course a lot of attention surrounding him. He's trying to hit the ball 400 yards. Well, guess what, Bryson? There's some trees out there on that course. You're probably going to hit 50 of them this week. I'd lay off the protein shakes and go for accuracy instead of distance. But I'm excited for the return to spring. Morikawa is my pick, but I'm just hoping for a good tournament. And, I'm excited to see it, back in April. We were robbed of this last year, of course, along with the tournament, as Justin alluded to a little while ago. So it'll be nice to have the Masters back in spring and to lounge around this weekend watching some competitive golf.
Yeah, I think that's really going to be the bulk of my weekend viewing is going to be the Masters. Absolutely. I love watching the Masters on TV. All right, our last topic.
Hold on, Chris. I think we are burying the lead a little bit, because I think the most significant part of this year's Masters tournament is who won't be playing.
Yeah,
and that's Tiger Woods. And it's not as if over the last 10 years we haven't had major tournaments without Tiger. He's been hurt a lot. This is an uncharted territory, but I will be curious, with his future so unknown. I'll be curious. Obviously, no one's going to reach the popularity of Tiger Woods. He is on that Mount Rushmore of athletes from this century, who are just the best of the best. And the interest in some of these athletes just transcends their sport. Tiger Woods is one of them, without question, right up there with LeBron James. And I'm sure you guys could come up with a couple others, but
Tom Brady.
I don't know if Tom Brady quite transcends football. He's the greatest quarterback, but there's not that, despite our debate about Super Bowl ratings and how much people care about watching Tom Brady, Chris, which my feelings on that.
What I'm saying is, you talk about the best athletes the first 20 years.
No, I'm not saying the best. I'm saying who transcends their sport in terms of interest. Tom Brady is not like a world-renowned athlete like LeBron James or Tiger Woods is. Great quarterback, one of the best. He's not on that level. But excuse me for that tangent. But I'll just be curious who kind of steps up and who takes that top dog status on the PGA Tour. This seems like a great chance for Dustin Johnson to do that. A guy who is always right on the cusp of kind of, when he's not winning majors, he's like number 2 every time. I wonder if he can string together back-to-back majors here and kind of elevate himself into the unquestioned top golfer that we have right now. And obviously can't forget about my guy, Brooks Koepka.
Yeah. Okay. Our last topic, because we have to talk about the NFL every single week, and somehow we pull it off. Robert came up with this one, obviously, is that the Kansas City Chiefs have proposed to change the rules in relation to uniform numbers. They want single digits to be available for wide receivers, linebackers, defensive backs, tight ends. I mean, this is radical stuff, because if you know anything about the NFL, they have a very stringent system of uniform numbers. Basically, quarterbacks, kickers, punters, and wide receivers can be 0 to 20. Running backs are 0 to 19. Running backs and quarterbacks are 20 to 40. Offensive linemen are in the 60s. Defensive linemen are in the 70s. I mean, in the 90s, and we all, and wide receivers it's all over the place in a ways. But what Kansas City's proposing is even more radical. I mean, look, I have no issue with this. College football basically gives any number to any player. You have kickers wearing numbers in the 90s. You've got running backs wearing number 1. I mean, it's no big deal. It's just a number, okay? And the fact that the NFL, has this system and retired numbers, teams like Justin's Green Bay Packers, the Chicago Bears, older franchises that have retired a decent amount of numbers. The NFL needs to do this. So go ahead, give a wide receiver a number 1, give a punter a number 89, whatever. It's just a number. Just go ahead and do it. Go ahead, Justin.
Yeah, I think this is much ado about nothing. As far as I'm concerned, I mean, I think the main reason that the Chiefs proposed this, Chris, as you alluded to, is they're one of these teams that has a ton of numbers that are retired, and it's just becomes difficult when you have 100 guys in training camp and you got numbers that aren't available, and you have players wearing the same number because you got 3 guys wearing number 30 because You have a bunch of running backs in camp, and this number's unavailable and that number's unavailable. So from that standpoint, I don't care. I will say, you mentioned my Packers. Despite their long history, they only have six numbers retired. Unlike these joke teams like the Bears, who, they'll probably be retiring Jay Cutler's number someday because he's the best quarterback in that sad franchise's history. But I do think that there's another relevant aspect of this, which makes it worth doing, is the fact that just the nature of football, you have so many players who are not single position players anymore. Running backs like the Alvin Kamara's of the world, Christian McCaffrey, so often they are playing wide receiver. That's where they're lined up. They're dual threats on defense. Safeties and linebackers, well, a lot of the times they're basically the same position now. They're those hybrid positions. So just because of that, because guys are playing so much out of position anyway, or what we consider the typical football positions, I think this number system and having to identify what position you are, blah, 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 it's kind of a thing of the past. So I don't really, if they could propose this, they could go through with it, which according to I think Peter King says this is pretty much a slam dunk that this is going to happen. I'm fine with it. I'm fine with how the system was before. It's about number 89 on my list of concerning things about the NFL. I'll just say that.
Robert?
Well, I think if they stick with the current system, they should force Tua to pick a number 20 and above, because he's just not a quarterback. So that's where I'll start the discussion.
Whoa. Okay, you know something? You've been ripping on Tua. You send me a text or something, you rip on Tua. There's a tweet, you're ripping on Tua. Let's give the guy a chance, okay? It's only been one season, okay? It wasn't your typical off season. He wasn't completely healthy. Look, I'm not making excuses for the guy.
Look what you did, Robert. Look what you did.
I know. Well, it's funny. Josh Allen didn't light up the league his first couple seasons, and everything turned out okay with him after year 3. So let's if you're gonna take shots at my guy Tua, let's
look. I get that it makes you all undone, but when Tua's backing up Josh Allen in a few years, you'll be thanking me for all this hate. So take it easy over there. As far as the numbers with the with the NFL jersey numbers and changing this, I think it's the right move. Not only because some of these teams just keep retiring numbers because they feel like they have to honor every good player that's ever put on a uniform of theirs, but I think it makes sense from a marketing standpoint for a lot of these guys, especially guys that come out of college. Maybe there's a number that they're already associated with. I remember this with Reggie Bush coming out of USC, number 5. There was an attempt, I believe, by his team to try and secure number 5 in the NFL, and of course the NFL shot it down. But if there's a guy like that comes out of college that's associated with a number, especially a number that under NFL rules right now they can't wear, I say let them wear it, because it creates a good marketing opportunity for the league. You sell some jerseys, it helps the player out. It's a win-win all the way around. So, I like this idea. I think the Chiefs are the ones that put it forward. I think it's the right move, and it falls in line, I think, with the need to evolve. The game needs to evolve. You see rule changes and things like that are part of that evolution. This is part of that too. I agree with Justin. It's not the most important thing, but it's one of these things that you could easily see some of the old guard in the NFL try to stop or cry about, because that they've done things a certain way since the 1920s. But I think that this is the right move, and give players an opportunity to kind of form their own identity and not necessarily be forced into a number that they might not necessarily like, or that might not present the most marketing opportunities for them.
Yeah. Our last topic, and this was added at the last minute, but that's fine. We can definitely do this, is Justin's Los Angeles Angels and Shohei Ohtani. He's healthy, and boy, he looks pretty darn good. I mean, he hit a home run on Sunday night. He threw a fastball over 100 miles an hour. I mean, this guy arguably is one of the top players in Major League Baseball from a standpoint of marketing and potential. And we've discussed in the past about how MLB is kind of like, failed in some ways, because obviously, the best player on the Angels is Mike Trout, and arguably the best player in all of baseball is Mike Trout. And yet most people who don't really follow baseball really don't know who he is. So, but Ohtani, I mean, look, this guy, I mean, the whole thing with him has been health. If he stays healthy, if he can keep doing what he's doing, I mean, this is going to be really cool to see the potential this guy has as a everyday player who can pitch and who can hit. It's special. You want to enjoy it while it lasts, and hopefully it'll last a long time. So, Robert, your thoughts on Ohtani?
It's an exciting thing when he's healthy, because he presents an opportunity for MLB to highlight a real star. Not that I count on that bum Manfred to do it, but maybe people can be maybe people can find Ohtani on his own, and I think on their own. I think that game, Sunday Night Baseball game, was certainly a nice coming out party for him, for those that hadn't seen him play before, to belt that home run he did, to hit over 100 on the radar gun. Just really displaying his talents. This guy's been playing pretty well this year. He's hit a couple homers, stolen a couple bases. His bat's been great. And the first opportunity for him to pitch was on Sunday. And, it's not like he threw a complete game or anything, but none of these, pitchers these days with their baby arms are going to go more than 5 or 6 innings anyway. So, he threw 4 2/3, solid work, showed off the power, and, it's an exciting thing. Mike Trout's not going to move the needle in LA. So here's Shohei Ohtani lighting it up and generating some excitement. And, if he can stay healthy, which is the big question mark with this guy, I've had him on my fantasy team the last few years, and, this guy just can't stay healthy, whether it's, the arm injury, maybe there have been some other ailments along the way, but, if he can stay healthy, even if you can keep his bat in the lineup, it's a huge addition for that team. So exciting to see what the 2021 season brings with Ohtani. Again, if he stays healthy, it's going to be a fun one. And hell, maybe Ritz's Angels will make a run at it here if he can stay healthy.
Freeway series maybe with the Dodgers would be kind of cool, wouldn't it? So,
Well,
all right, Justin, you get the last word on this.
well, hey, I said it when we did our MLB predictions. I said, Ohtani is the great X factor, and I think maybe I undersold it, but he might not just be the X factor for the Angels' chances this season, but if he can stay healthy, again, that's the thing we keep saying. If he can stay healthy, he very well might swing who is the best team in the American League. He is that good. But we're talking about a player that has never played more than 110 games. As you guys know, baseball season is 162 games. So that's basically a third of the season that he has missed. He played in 44 games last year, obviously the shortened season, but he wasn't particularly effective. He barely pitched because he was dealing with some arm issues, and he was bad at the plate. But I think Sunday night, and really what we've seen when he's not pitching, when he's hitting, he's had a bunch of plate appearances, is we kind of get that taste of what he can do. I got to credit the Angels, going back to Sunday night, we piss and moan a lot about pitchers being babied and guys only go 5 innings. And yes, Ohtani only pitched 4 2/3, but Joe Maddon very easily could have taken him out after 4 innings. He could have taken him out after facing one batter in that 5th inning. He left him out there. He challenged him and said, I want to see how this kid does in a pressure situation. And ultimately how that inning ended was Ohtani gets a third out, a strikeout, but it ends up as a missed ball by the catcher, and 2 runs come home. And then Ohtani goes to cover home plate, and he gets his legs taken out from under him, and he gets hurt. It wasn't a serious injury. He pinch hit the next day. and of course got hit by a pitch. But that moment was, it just kind of made me think like, I'll be so grateful, not just as an Angels fan, obviously I'm rooting for him because of that, but as a baseball fan, I will be so grateful if we can just get 1, 2, 3 seasons of this guy staying healthy, doing what he was brought to the majors to do, which is be an awesome hitter and an awesome pitcher. When he went down, I couldn't help but think, like, is he going to be like the Bo Jackson of Major League Baseball? Like, we just got that little hint of how good he could be, but for whatever reason, obviously the injuries are a big part. We never really got to see him at his peak. So I hope that doesn't happen with Ohtani. The Angels are basically taking the reins off of him this year, and they're not going to rest him as a hitter the day before he pitches. They're not necessarily going to rest him the day after he pitches. He's going to be available to play every single day. I hope he can hold up because he is as talented as any player in the major leagues, and that includes my boy Mike Trout. And if you're a bettor, hey Chris, I know you're into this kind of thing. Go check the odds on Shohei Ohtani's MVP odds because I'm not sure what they are right now, but if that guy can stay healthy, he's going to be in the mix because he's that good.
We'll see what happens. So, all right, gentlemen, as always, it's been fun. And, we're getting closer to the draft. That's only 3 weeks away, or is it 2 weeks away? I can't remember now.
A few weeks
Robert?
away, end of April.
End of April. Yeah, I figured it's got to be at least 3 weeks. Okay. So that's it, folks. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next week.